All right, hey everyone, welcome back. So hopefully you guys had a great Monday. It was pretty good. Bitcoin was down a little bit today, but the miners were up actually, which was nice to see, and a lot of them actually did pretty good today. So that was kind of nice. What else do we have here? I just saw IREN actually reach their 50 exahash target here by the end of the month here. Today was the last day of the month. We're into July tomorrow. So that's awesome news. We'll talk about that. We'll dive into that press release that they have there. We'll also talk about some good news on Bitcoin. Ethereum is actually getting some love right now as well. We'll talk about that. I don't have any metrics for the miners or anything like that because it's basically the end of the month here, not much happening. We'll get some updates possibly tomorrow from them, we'll see. And we'll talk about obviously Bitcoin miners, all that stuff, and some other good news, okay? So as always, you guys know the drill, not financial advice, for anyone only, do your own research, full disclosure below that. Hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. And let's take a look at what happened with Bitcoin today. So Bitcoin did actually finish out the month with being in the green, which was nice. But here's where we ended up here. So on the last day of the month, we were down 1.12% here. We closed at 107,173 and 21 cents overall. If we look at the monthly chart here on it for, probably should zoom that in. For June, we were up 2.42%, not too bad. For the quarter, we're up much nicer than that. Well, we'll take a look at a chart for that along with Ethereum, see how those two are comparing. But overall, it was a good month. Nonetheless, we were positive at least. So we'll take whatever we can get there, right? So we were in the green for it. Miners, even though Bitcoin was down a little bit today, the miners are still doing pretty well here. They're pretty strong here currently. And like I said before in last night's video and the ones before that as well, as we get closer to July, August, September, October, November, December, and possibly January as well, we should see the miners go up in value. If historically the performance of the miners and Bitcoin are the same, what we've seen in last cycles, then we should see the miners do pretty well here. Bitfarms today was up nicely today. That one was up 12.6% today, so kind of catching a little bit of a bid today, which was nice to see there. I was hoping it would come down a little bit more. I was hoping it would go down to like 50 cents. I could start buying back into it, but it had a little pump here today. Maybe IREN was not selling as much today. Or not IREN, sorry, Riot was not selling as much today. BitTF was up 3.52%. Cypher was up nicely today, 12.21%. It's definitely been having a pretty nice run up here in the last, 5 days or so. Right, it started out 364. It's at 478 right now. Those are pretty good gains here. How much of a gains do we have here? From that right there to there, we're up 34%. And then if we look at the recent bottom here, where we bounced off the 50 SMA and bounced up to that, we're almost up 50%. So pretty good in 10 days. I mean, that's pretty awesome there. Cleanspark was up a little bit, 3.37% today. This thing is still like at this resistance level right now. We need to get past this resistance level. If we can get past it here, because we tried it here once, we came back down, went back up, came back down, went back up. Looks like we got a W forming here for a win, possibly to go up higher here. So we need to get past this $11 and something cents here. Once we get past that, we'll do better. CORZ was up a little bit as well, 2.52% today. Still no news on them and CoreWeave as far as what the deal is going to be there. Hive was flat today. HUT-E was up 5.32%. IREN was up another 4% today. It was up much higher, then it came back down. I think it was up at one point like 8, 9%. Then it came back down a little bit. Mara was up just a little bit, 4.32%. Riot was up quite nicely here today, 7.11%. And then Wolf was up 3.79%. MicroStrategy was actually up 5.3%. Galaxy was up another 8.9% there. We had some that were down here as far as the hodlers are concerned. The blockchain group was up today, finally, after, 4 or 5 days of red there. It was up 8.29% on that one. GME was up a little bit here. Small miners were up for the most part, except for Argo. I think I heard someplace that Argo was getting got a delisting notice from the NASDAQ. They've been below $1 here since, gosh, going all the way back to, it looks like here, this was back in December. So yeah, it'll be 6 months. So that's gonna be 180 days, right? Where you try to get, so they're probably gonna file for an extension, get another 90 days or 120 days, whatever it is, and then see if they can get the price up. But that didn't help out there. They were down 48.6%. BitDigital being up a little bit today, which was nice, 8.96%, right? They're changing the company around. Their white fiber is going to be public, a separate company basically, and they're going to be done with Bitcoin mining and go into becoming a treasury for Ethereum, right? So we have another story about that as well happening here today with Tom Lee. See, DigiPower was up another 10% today, kind of bouncing back up here. DMG was up, Mawson was down, and Canon was actually up a little bit here. The ETFs for the Bitcoin miners, pretty good day. BitQ was up 3.5%, BKCH was up 3 3/4, DAP was up 4 3/4, and WGMI was up approximately 4 3/4. So pretty good there. So yeah, those are looking pretty good, right? Nice to see finally some gains on these miners. I'm sure you guys are happy about it. I'm happy about it. Things are looking much better in my portfolio. Just going back a couple of months, I was basically in the red. I was red 10% of my portfolio overall across the board between Cleanspark, IREN, Bitfarms, and Mara at that point. Now I can honestly say that Cleanspark is up 104% for me. IREN is 89% up. Mara is up like 4%. And Bitfarms is actually down 40%. So the two biggest ones that I do have, which are Cleanspark and IREN, are doing very, very well, and I'm really happy. So hopefully you guys are doing as well, if not better, than what I'm doing right now. All right, but that's it for that. Let's take a look at Bitcoin here on the monthly. So Bitcoin was up 2.49% in June. July, we're up just a little bit here, 0.3% roughly. That's what it's showing me right now, at least. So that's pretty good. And then we finished out the quarter here with being up almost 29.74%, almost 30% here on Bitcoin. That's looking pretty good there as well. So we'll take that win anytime we can get it. Next, here's the Bitcoin ETF inflows. We can see that, well, we had somebody selling out here. Who was selling out here? ARK was selling out, it looks like, 10.2 million in Bitcoin. We'll see what BlackRock does. BlackRock usually buys here. We'll see if they continue to buy and be on that winning streak there. We'll see how much they bought today on that one. All right. Let's look at the pre-hours or the pre-market trading here right now. Bitfarms is down a little bit, 1.2. Cypher is up 1.46 again. Cleanspark's up just a little bit, 0.36%. Core is up 0.18%. Hive is up 3.3%, so that's pretty good. It was actually flat today. IREN's up another 2.8% on the day. The pre-market here. Mara's up just a little bit, 0.45. Riot is up, flat. Riot's not up. Riot's actually flat here. All right, let's get into the news stories that we do have here. So as I said, Ethereum is getting some love here recently, right? And you can see that here on the charts as well. You can see Bitcoin being up almost 30% here, and Ethereum being up 34.48. So Ethereum has outperformed a little bit by comparison to Bitcoin here, whereas historically we've seen in the last year, probably 2 years, where Bitcoin has done much better than Ethereum has. So we'll see if this is a sign of things to come for Ethereum. For those of you that are holding Ethereum, that might be a good sign here. But we're also seeing a lot more companies getting interested in doing an Ethereum Treasury, kind of like Sailor and Strategy there for Bitcoin. We got companies doing it for Ethereum as well. And the first one that we had that announced it, that at least I know of, that I heard of, was BitDigital last week, right? We talked about that. And then we got Bitmine here, is up 300% today on the news that it is establishing an Ethereum Treasury. Tom Lee explains why this is important. We're not going to get into the video here, but Tom Lee is with Fundstrat, and I believe he's going to be the chairman of the board there, I believe, at Bitmine. And that thing took off like crazy today. I was a little surprised that it took off like 300% up on the day. But then I was talking to some friends online, and they're like, well, Tom Lee's got definitely a big following there, right? And he's got the reputation of being a pretty good analyst. So that really helped out the stock there. Whereas we saw last week with BitDigital, they came up with the news that they're going to be the Ethereum Treasury company going forward, and the stock actually went down, right? So I think it does beg to have somebody that's well known and established in the space. We saw a similar event happen, not as much of a spike though, but a similar event that happened with Hut 8 I think it was last year, or was it even this year? I can't remember now. With Anthony Pompliano, backing them there. The stock did pretty good after that as well. So it's like we got some influencers here in the space, I guess, for some of these companies at least. Okay, but that's interesting. So what's going to happen here going forward? Obviously, they're going to be getting more Ethereum on their books. They're basically going to hodl it, stake it. So they're going to be making money on that portion of it, and then kind of like what Strategy is doing as well. Except Strategy doesn't do staking; they might be doing other things on top of it. But all of this stuff may point to Ethereum actually doing pretty well here. We'll see. Without these things happening, I thought Ethereum was going to be lagging behind Bitcoin in percentage gains, but maybe this kind of helps it out a little bit more. We'll see. We'll have to keep an eye on how Ethereum does going forward here from this point on. Next story here that we have here, just in USDC issuer Circle applies for national trust bank license in the US, right? This is great news here. And definitely gives us more opportunities, more on-ramps and things like that potentially. So we'll see what they're going to do with their Bitcoin hodl that they have also at that point. So that's good news there. We also have Bhutan now holds 40% of the country's GDP in Bitcoin. They have $1.29 billion of Bitcoin value there. And that's 40% of the country's GDP. So that's pretty huge for a small country like Bhutan there. All right, so you're seeing that having an impact on some companies, some countries as well. And you'll probably see other countries do the same thing going forward. It's just a matter of time here. And then obviously we have a strategy here. They are going, this from British Hodl. Here we go. Bitcoin is being added to indexes to front run the S&P 500. Roughly 2 trillion in Russell top 200 value index. And then this is breaking strategy added to the Russell top 200 value index here. So I got added to that as well. So that's awesome news there, right? More eyes on and everything else. Definitely helps out. And finally here, Strategy has acquired another 4,980 Bitcoin for $531.9 million at 106,801 per Bitcoin, and has achieved a Bitcoin yield of 19.7% year to date as of 6/29. So that was as of Sunday. They hodled 597,325 Bitcoin, acquired for $42.4 billion at an average price of 70,982 per Bitcoin there. So every week it seems like we're getting a press release from Strategy, just acquiring even more, which is nice, right? We got the ETFs acquiring also for Bitcoin, but yet the price is still stagnant. It's not really wanting to go up much. So in time, I think patience. I think we just need a little bit more patience, and eventually Bitcoin will start running up on us like we think it's going to, because there's just not enough supply for what everybody wants. So got to be a little bit more patient there, I think. All right. Finally, IREN here. Nice achievement here, target as well. Not sure when they actually reached the full 50 exahash, or if they finally did it on the last day, or if they did it a little bit earlier. I haven't had the chance to put this into my spreadsheet yet. We'll talk about it probably tomorrow when I put it into my spreadsheet with them being at 50 exahash. But that is a nice increase here. That means they probably installed here. What did they install? I had them at the end of May at 41 exahash. So they installed 9 exahash here in the last month in June, which is gonna be their biggest monthly gain ever here. So the prior one was 7 exahash being installed in November, and now they're at 9,000 or 9 exahash being. Geez, am I doing that? 9 current hash rate, 41 exahash. Yeah, 9 exahash being installed in 1 month. So that is definitely quite the feat there to get done. So congrats to the IREN team there. And let's go back to here. So IREN is happy to announce it has reached its mid-year target of 50 exahash installed self-mining capacity. This is from Daniel Roberts, co-founder and co-CEO of IREN. This is what he commented. Reaching 50 exahash is a defining milestone and a testament of our ability to rapidly deliver complex energy and data center infrastructure. In just 30 months, we've scaled organically 50 times to become one of the world's largest and most efficient Bitcoin miners. Yeah, they've done a fantastic job here. With 50 exahash of mining expansion complete, we're now turning to our next frontier, leveraging the same execution discipline to scale AI infrastructure across high-growth compute markets. Okay, so that's definitely exciting there. The 50 exahash milestone is anchored by our 750 megawatt Childress site, now supporting 650 megawatts of operating capacity, and forming the foundation of our next phase of growth with Horizon 1, a 50 megawatt liquid-cooled AI data center set for delivery in Q4, so not too far away, about 6 months away from that. You can see their growth here as it has been happening. So fantastic growth here, installed hash rate, right? Where were they in December 22? They were actually a little higher before that. If you recall, back in, I think it was November, October of 2022, they had, I think, close to like 4.5 exahash, something like that. But they had to return some machines through their special purpose vehicle that they, couldn't pay for anymore. So, but that was during the bear market. So that's kind of what happened there. Right, so I was looking at them at that point, but I wanted to see how do they rebound from that, having to return about 3.5 exahash of miners that they had to return. I wanted to see how they progress going forward, how do they rebound, and really got excited with them back in, was it 23 or 2024? I can't remember now. I think it was in 2024 when they announced their growth to like possibly getting to 50 exahash. We're like, okay, they're finally back on. let's get into them, and that's what kind of when I started buying back into them. Or actually I started buying them at that point. So I took some profits in Cleanspark at that time and purchased a heck of a lot of shares in IREN at that point. Okay, so here's the site. This was back in August 2022. Pretty bare. Then you got, this one is next year. So definitely a lot better looking there. And then this is finally the site here in 2025 here. So a huge build out there and a lot of, well, I call them sheds because they're kind of like sheds, but data centers for Bitcoin miners there. And they're working on obviously getting the site built out for Horizon 1 as well. All right, so platform for long-term value creation. IREN's 50 exahash platform combines scale, efficiency, and financial resilience built to endure Bitcoin cycles and market volatility. Low-cost production. IREN does have the lowest production, I believe, of all the miners. 41 all-in cash cost per Bitcoin last quarter, with further operating leverage expected, driven by 15 joules per terahash efficiency, scale, low-cost renewable energy, and vertical integration. Asymmetric upside and resilient cash flows, exposure to Bitcoin upside with built-in downside protection from low-cost operations that can help mitigate the impact of market downturns by allowing for increased Bitcoin production as higher cost peers exit, which is true. And immediate revenue realization, daily Bitcoin sales avoid balance sheet exposure and tie performance to operations, not price speculation. This is the way that they've performed, or this is the way that they have executed for the last 3 years, right? They sell everything. They don't hollow anything like some companies do. I don't know if it's a benefit or a negative in the long run, but we'll see how it's going to play out, right? Operationally wise, they're excellent. They don't have a hodl, not a big deal. They have possibilities with HPCI that could definitely make up for it there. No near-term mining hardware capex. Recent fleet refresh minimizes capital needs and maximizes free cash flow, which is great. And flexible capital structure, convertible notes remain only source of non-equity financing, preserving flexibility for the next phase of growth, which is obviously going to be their HPCI ambitions there. And here's illustrative annualized hardware profit sensitivities at 50 exahash, right? So this is if network hash rate more or less stays the same here. At Bitcoin 105,000, you're looking at about 827 million a year, roughly, from them. And Bitcoin gets to 1,000 exahash, right, the network. And Bitcoin price gets 225,000, you're looking at 823 million. 150,000 for Bitcoin, you're looking at 1 billion there in revenue, and 200,000, you're looking at about 1.4 billion in revenue. So that's going to be huge here. With or without HPCI, they're going to be generating a heck of a lot of cash as it is at that point. So congrats to them. Love seeing that. And this is one of the reasons why I invested in them, is just their excellent growth and excellent execution on that growth as well. They have definitely not disappointed. Let's just say that, right? They've definitely done the job that they needed to get 250 exahash. So congrats there to everyone. I mean, took a lot of people to get that done. So congrats. All right, but that's it. That's all I got for you guys here. We'll see what tomorrow brings in. We'll get into Q&A here as well. See if you guys have any questions or things like that. And yeah, we'll see. All right, let's get into Q&A here. There it is. Almost lost my little button. All right, that's loading up. We got that. As always, if you guys could preface the questions with a question mark or a Q, I'd appreciate it. I'm going to scroll my way up and work my way down as always, and we'll go from there. All right, let's see. Covered those already. Let's see. All right. Tej says put up a poll for what? What are we going to be asking questions on? Fairfax says I'm about even on Cleanspark. Okay, so you bought around this price point. Patient. Just be patient. It'll go up even higher, I think. All right. LB says, hi, Sebastian. Why is Hive gets no love from investors? Their cost to mine has been pretty high, right? Above 60, 70,000 to mine a single Bitcoin, all in, pretty much without depreciation and stock-based compensation. So if you look at cash costs. So that's pretty high. They need to get more hash rate up. I think as they do that, that should lower their costs overall. They're going to be getting better machines as well. That should help out. They have done other things. I think it's also maybe because they're not really based in the United States. I mean, they're based out of Texas now. They have an office there for regulatory reasons and reporting issuance and things like that, but they don't have any operations that are meaningful in the United States. I don't think they have anything right now. They got sites in Canada, Iceland, I think, and then Argentina and Paraguay, I believe. So everything is outside of the United States, and maybe that's the reason why. But we'll see if that changes, if they can grow to 25 exahash, or 25 exahash by the end of the year here. See if they get some love from that. All right, John Kurtz, what does Bit Digital need to do to give the confidence to buy bought Friday? So you bought Friday. You know, I like Bit Digital a lot. I think the team that they have there is great, and I think what Sam is doing there, I think is great. I think it makes sense. Let me just put it that way. I think it makes sense splitting up the company with white fiber for their HPCI data center stuff, and then they're getting rid of Bitcoin mining, right? They could really never compete properly with having their machines hosted all the time. So that probably makes sense for them to get rid of that. As far as them going into Bitcoin, or Ethereum Treasury, or becoming a treasury company for Ethereum, I'm on the fence on it, right? Only because Ethereum has not performed as well as Bitcoin has here, at least in the last 2 years or so. So for that reason, I'm on the fence on it, but maybe Ethereum surprises us and does pretty good, and they end up doing pretty well on it. I would have wished he would have went more into Bitcoin, but we'll see. We'll see how it works out. He might be right. I might be wrong on that. But they're small, right? The revenues that they are getting from their data centers are, last I checked, I think they were over probably close to $100 million there, maybe around there, $80 to $100 million or so a year. A lot of these, I'll just say that they're small. That's the only thing that I will say, right? But they're doing all the right things. They're buying sites now, data centers and things like that, which they were asset light before, not anymore. But they're doing all the right things here. We'll see if we can get that turned around and have the price actually go up in value over time. All right, there's a question here. What do you think about SBET holding 200,000 Ethereum and currently trading at 1.3 NAV? Well, I don't know what the other companies are trading at when it comes to Ethereum. I haven't really paid attention to it, to be honest. But it's something that I may have to start looking into as far as what the other companies are holding and what kind of MNAV are they getting at that point, right? Unfortunately, I don't know. S8 says CORZ about 5 billion valuation and Bitfarms about 467 million valuation, and both in the HPCI hosting. Bitfarms time is coming just based on valuation. The assets alone, they have probably more assets than they're being valued at right now as it is. So they're way undervalued as it is. I agree. Sadie, thank you so much. Likes definitely do help the channel there. Can you more cipher? Can I talk about more cipher, things like that? I do talk about them whenever they provide any kind of updates, press releases, and things like that. Also, so I do talk about them, and I've talked about them in the past as well, as far as even last year I talked about them having more growth here in the second half of this year than they did in the beginning, right, or even the end of last year, and more into next year as well. So they have pretty good potential here to go forward as well. All right. Let's see. Daniel, so you're this is basically a continuation of your prior question here versus BMNR trading at over 4x NAV after today's move, and Tom Lee. That's crazy that it went up 300%, right? But they got Tom Lee. Tom Lee has a lot of influence and a lot of people following him. So, that's kind of why the stock went up. So does it make sense? No, that they should have a 4x compared to somebody else with a 1.3x. That doesn't make sense. But sometimes things do outrun things. We've seen that also with MicroStrategy, right? Outrunning Bitcoin a little bit and then pulling back. So we might see a pullback on BMNR as well. All right. Andrea, thank you so much. Yes, likes do help the channel, right? If you guys find it useful or entertaining at least, hit the like button. If not, hit the thumbs down button. I'm a big boy, I can handle it. All right. Daniel, from these levels and just for fun, could you name the 3 miners that you think have the most upside potential until year end from their current levels? Thanks. From their current levels here, Bitfarms is beaten down so much. If they get any love, that one might have the most percentage gains, but not dollar gains, right? After that, I would say the ones that are, I would say IREN, Cleanspark, and possibly Cypher. CORZ, CORZ is possibly getting bought out. We don't know where that's going to end up at here. So if they get bought out, we're looking at maybe, another 50%, maybe 35, 50% gain from where it's at right now, depending on where they agree on the sell price. But other than that, I would think IREN, Cleanspark, and Cypher potentially. Maybe even Riot if they get some kind of deal there for HPCI. I don't know. Those are the ones I'll be looking at. Hello, Obama says, Riot daily chart looks healthy. Yeah, a lot of these guys' charts look are starting to look a lot better here. All right. Andre has a question here. Hi, Seb. With the Ethereum statements by Lee, do you now see Hive as a potential outperformer? Do they still have their HODL still in Hive in Ethereum? I thought they sold all their ETH already. I could be wrong on that, and I could be mistaken, but I thought that no, they still have something, I think, but I'm just not sure how much they have. All right. Gary, any predictions on which miner had best mining month compared to main numbers? It's if you're looking for uptime and things like that, it'll be interesting to see which ones actually came in number one, because a lot of the companies that I've seen, at least, I think have dialed back operations because of the heat that we've had here. So they've curtailed their operations a little bit, so it's going to be hard to tell exactly. But I would expect to see, in the top three at least, Cleanspark, possibly IREN as well, and maybe even Hive. Hive is down in other sites. And maybe Mara. Mara might surprise us again this month, like they did last month, where they had great operations. But that's kind of where I'd be looking at. Magical Flying Machine's got a question. What is your target for Bitfarms and by when? Well, right now it's kind of tough to say where they're going to get to or how high they're going to get to, only because Riot is still selling their shares. And that's going to take a while for them to sell those shares. Could be a couple months before that's done. And I think that's going to be a negative impact on the stock price there for a while. Once they get out of that, and then big question is, can they actually get an HPCI deal for their sites in Pennsylvania? If they can, or at least do something towards that, the stock will perform well. But if Bitcoin at least goes to like 200,000 by the end of the year, potentially, we don't know. Maybe we'll get to 150,000. We'll see. But even at that point, I would expect them to do at least. There should be like at least $2, in my opinion, by the end of the year, just on that alone. But we'll see. All right, let's see. BS has a question here. Is it realistic that IREN could reach $6,200 per share if Bitcoin rallies to 150,000, 200,000, and their AI HPC expansion gains traction, or is this just overly optimistic hype? Well, if you're looking at, Bitcoin 200,000, they're generating 1.4 billion in revenue, right? Or is that profit that they mentioned there? What was that they mentioned? Hardware profit. So here, let's go here. So illustrative hardware profit would be 1.4 billion in profit for Bitcoin at 200,000, right? So that's a lot of revenue there. It's double from where we are pretty much right now as it is. So the stock should be at least double on that alone. So you're looking now at what, 28, like $30, which is kind of where I think the stock should be valued anyways. And then you add on top of it the HPCI. Well, what kind of a deal do they get? Do they get a small deal? Do they get a large deal? Right, that'll determine it. So I don't, if it's a large deal or something like that, could they fetch that much? It's a possibility, right? But I would bet that they would probably be, I think under 60 is doable. Over 60 is definitely pushing it, I think. And then we need to have a huge deal in order to get there on it. All right. What does Galaxy have for HODL versus market cap? Galaxy, I don't know. I have to run the numbers on them versus their market cap. I know that they have quite a bit of HODL there, but I just don't know exactly how much. But we could definitely look at that. I just don't have the numbers for Galaxy, to be honest. Gary says Ethereum is getting replaced by Solana. So strange bet on old technology. Yeah, I was a little surprised by that a little bit myself, with Tom Lee going in full bore on it. But Ethereum, Ethereum still works. It's still, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see which one wins out in the long run here. Gary says high tide in miners is floating all boats. Yep. That's what usually happens. Bitcoin going up or something like that, some positive news will usually float up all of them as well. Let's see here. H, is IREN and CORZ getting some potential deals? Is that why the price is moving? Well, CORZ is getting a buyout, potentially getting bought out by CoreWeave. So that's why that one popped like crazy. IREN is possibly being, maybe there is something happening because that one has been going up for quite a while. If we look at IREN here, let's see, where's it at? There it is. I mean, this thing has been doing really, really well here ever since it bottomed out here in, when was that? April? Yeah, beginning of April. And it's just been nothing but pretty much gains here. We've had some little pullbacks here, but it's been, it's gone up like crazy here. So either there's something known on the inside that we don't know, or it's just being repriced because it's up 191% from the bottom there at that point. So there might be something to it. Well, you know, behind the scenes, somebody knows something maybe. And it's definitely driving the stock up here. Or it could be just getting repriced. It was definitely way undervalued right there. Also got to 50 exahash here. That could have been also a part of it. That they've been growing tremendously here in hash rate over the last year, more or less. That could be. Bitcoin's doing pretty well. It's, you know, holding above 100,000. Network difficulty actually went down. So we're seeing all these good signs happening here for Bitcoin. One thing we haven't looked at in a while is actually the Bitcoin hash price. Okay, so yeah, so I mean, look at this. This thing has gone up here. When was this? June 29th, we had the difficulty change, right? Went down, I think, 8% or something like that. And look at what that impact had on the profitability on the miners. It went from basically being at $53 all the way up to $58 per petahash. So nice increase there on it. So that also helps out a little bit. Okay, going back here. BS, also, do you think mining stocks tend to front-run Bitcoin's price moves, or do they lag behind? Last cycle, they front-run it, and that was about a week to 2 weeks before Bitcoin topped. They front-run it at that point. Last cycle was also different because we had a double top, right? So the first top that we reached, the miners front-run it by about a week to 2 weeks. Some of the miners did, and then they didn't recover, I should say, after that bottom that we had in, where it was, you know, kind of like a cup on it, and then went back up to 69,000. Whereas only one miner did that, where it recovered and actually did really well, was Marathon at that point. But Mara in 2021 was also hyping like crazy. They're getting to 21 exahash next year, right, where everybody else was still getting to like 3, 4, 5 exahash. So that, I think, helped out Mara at that point. But yeah, the miners do front run. All right, Heinzie Ketchupy's got a question here. What happened to BMNBR? Why can't that happen to Cleanspark? You're talking about the 300% gains here on Bitmine. Is that the one you're talking about? I think. Yeah, maybe they should have had. Maybe they should have gotten Tom Lee and announced a hodl strategy for Ethereum or something like that. I don't know. Magical Fly Machine says, peace out, Bitfarms, LOL. It's not done yet. I wouldn't, you know, start covering the gravestone just yet. GT, question, do you think Riot would stop selling if Bitfarm moves up? Well, I think they should give it a little bit of a break every once in a while to let the stock at least go up in value instead of keep pressuring it downwards. So who's ever doing the selling there for them has to knock it off a little bit. Let the stock move up. When it does pretty well, start selling into a little bit, right? Drop it down 5%, let the stock go back up, drop it down, do something like that, but don't keep knocking it down, I think. That's the wrong move, I think. You're also costing yourself, you're losing money that way. I mean, they were buying in high dollars and $2 ranges for a long time. So, I mean, they're already at a loss at it. If they're selling at 70 some odd cents, 80 cents, under $1, whatever it is, you're just costing yourself money at that point. No. Where should Riot be if it's fairly valued? Let's take a look at Riot here, my spreadsheet really quick. Where do I have them at right now? So we know that they are stopping or pausing at least their Bitcoin mining expansion. I didn't want that. I wanted this one here. So they're pausing their Bitcoin mining expansion. They're supposed to get to like 30 some exahash, right? I think that's kind of where they're pausing there, which is kind of where we have them right now at 35. I think they're supposed to get to like 38 or something like that. Potentially somewhere around there. So based on that and based on the revenue that we had in May, I am between 1342 and 2013. They're $11.30. They're getting close to their what I think is their fair valuation just on Bitcoin mining, but we don't know what they can catch for as far as HPCI, right? They do have some megawatts there. I think in total, possibility. What is the possibility? They're like, I think they're going for like 1 gigawatt potential there. I think. So if they catch something good for it from a customer, a hyperscaler, whatever it might be, that might definitely pump the stock up there. So it could go up even higher because of that. They also have a huge hodl position as well. And right now their hodl position is 51% of the market cap. Pretty high here. It's not as high as Marathon's is, but still pretty high, all things considered. And yeah, I mean, they got $2 billion in BTC right now as it is. So they should be valued much higher. Bitcoin goes up much higher. They should be valued much higher as well because of it. Not only because they're going to be generating more revenue, but also because the Bitcoin hodl is going to be valued more. And then they have the HPCI potential there. So we'll see. It gets a little bit more nuanced and a little bit more hard to figure out where these guys could be because we don't know what kind of deals are going to get potentially for HPCI. So we're kind of pulling stuff out of our rear ends a little bit, trying to figure it out. Okay. Gary, why is profit higher for 105,000 than 125,000 on IREN table? That doesn't make any sense. That's because they're looking at a higher network hash rate. So if we look at it here, there it is. Right? They're talking about here 837 exahash, right? At these price targets here, right? And then if you look at it here, they're talking about 1,000 exahash, so 1 zettahash, or I think it's 1 zettahash at that point. So that's going to bring down your revenues here because of it, right? The higher the network hash rate goes and Bitcoin stays at the same price or a little bit higher, you're going to be generating less revenue because of it. So that always has an impact. So that's one of the things is with Bitcoin mining is you always got to refresh your gear every 3 to 4 years potentially, right? Get the newer gear, drop your joules per terahash, your efficiencies improve everything else, and you can mine at a much better profit margins at that point as well. But that's why. Okay, covered that one. All right, BS has a question. What actually happened to Bitfarms fundamentally? Was there any real problem in the business, or is this mostly a price suppressed by short traders? No, there were issues with the company before Ben took over as CEO. The prior CEO and the board there were probably not the best, but they were going in a different direction, right? They're going to like Latin America, South America, all those countries looking for cheap energy, but you had some risks from governments and things like that, not as stable governments and things like that. So that was part of it. Ben got in there last year, right? I definitely spoke out about it that I would like to see Ben in there. He's been with the company for a long time. He has plenty of experience. I said give him a shot, right? And luckily enough, they did. But after Ben got in there, he started doing things, changing things around, which I think are for the betterment of the company or for the good of the company. But it's going to take time, right? He sold some sites to Hive in Paraguay, I believe it was. He transitioned more into, obviously, the United States, buying up Stronghold as well, and doing other things. He got new board members in there as well. So he's doing all the right things. It's just going to take a little bit more time, I think, to turn things around. And they're obviously trying to get an HPCI deal as well. So a lot of the stuff that's happened in the past is getting fixed, I think. And this is going to take a little time. Now, as far as why is the stock where it's at right now, I think it's because of Riot, right? Riot trying to take them over didn't help either. There was a lot of unnecessary legal expenditures that had to be put out there as well. They also had to pay off their prior CEO as well. It was just one thing after another that they were kind of shooting themselves in the foot multiple times in the past. But things are improving, I think. It's just getting right off their back now once Riot sells off and getting something for HPCI deal with their Pennsylvania sites. If they can do that, then the stock should do much better. Now, we also have the news that they are looking to do possibly a reverse split. That doesn't help either, right? Anytime investors hear that, they think, okay, reverse split, stock's going to go up in value, but you're going to get less shares for it, and then they're going to dilute again. So that's never a good sign, or at least never a good feeling in the investors. So that's possibly why the stock is down right now. All right, talked about that one. Let's see here. Kenny, hi Seb. What price per share do you think CORZ would be bought at? I think it's gonna be somewhere between possibly, between $20 and $30 somewhere. I don't know exactly where it's gonna be, but somewhere in there I think would be a fair deal for it. If they do, finalize something, I think somewhere around there would be kind of fair. Let's see. Amik says finally broke even on Riot. Nice. Yeah, I know some of you guys have been buying a little bit higher, so that always hurts when things come down 50%. Let's see. MXN only 4% to go. 40% was rough. It was. Let's see. You guys are having a conversation here. Okay. Gary says Bitfarms never recovered from almost going bankrupt from buying Bitcoin at peak last cycle. One mistake follows another with them. That's also true. They did buy Bitcoin, but so did other companies buy Bitcoin at that point, and they had it backed. They had some loans backed by Bitcoin. They didn't help out either. A lot of companies did that. They weren't the only ones there, though. We saw, well, Argo was one. Who else did we see at that point? Bitfarms did that. IREN even got hurt during that time frame as well, right? They had the Bitcoin backed, or not Bitcoin backed. They had the special purpose vehicles for the miners. They had to return like 3.5 exahash back then. So it wasn't just them. It was quite a few miners that got hit. Mawson was another one. Argo was another one. Who else? There was a couple. There was definitely a couple that got hurt at that point. All right. MXA question. Set peak price for IREN at BTC 160 to 170,000. Not taking into consideration any HPCI potential there, I would think that they would be probably closer to like $30 at that point. I would think somewhere around there. That's kind of where I would see them. Maybe even higher than that. Let's see. Hello Bomb says, if Riot scores the deal, it's going to be great for the price. Yeah, any of these guys here, right? You have quite a few miners that are trying to get a deal. You got IREN, you got Cypher, you got Riot, you got Bitfarms, you got Hut 8, you got Hive as well. So there's at least 7 there that are trying to get something, right, from the sites that they have. Hive a little bit less so. I don't think Hive has anything. I mean, they bought a data center now that's, what is it, 7 megawatts, 8 megawatts, I can't remember, but something smaller. But they're all trying for that, right? They're all vying for that customer there. Which one's going to get it first? I don't know. I would love to definitely see IREN get it. IREN has 2 gigawatts of sites. I own a bunch of shares in it. I would love to see that, but you never know. Could they be in the front? Possibly, but we'll see. Time will only tell. We've been waiting for basically a year for these guys to get any kind of deals. All of them. Right, the first deal that came out was CoreWeave of CORZ, and then we had TerraWolf get a deal with Core42. Smaller deal, but still a good deal there. And then we had CoreWeave do a deal with Applied Digital and with Galaxy, but none of the other miners. So go figure there. So we'll see. All right, let's see. Did you see the news that Hut 8 energized their Vega data center? I did see that, but they didn't provide any data as far as how much hash rate they have in there. I saw them like, okay, that's great, but where's the data on it? How much is energized? How much is working in there? And I believe that's going to be going to American BTC, right? Aren't they supposed to get all the hash rate there? But it's going to be probably, well, they're going to be hosting it for them. So American BTC is not getting the data center themselves. All right, let's see. Can you update the table regarding the recent developments at IREN Energy? The table, let me see. Which table is that? Do I have a table in here? I might have a table. Let me see if I got any tables here. Not in my spreadsheet, at least. Let's see. Do they have any? Oh, I'm looking at Riot. No wonder. Let me see. IREN, do I have something happening there for it? My spreadsheet. Bear with me while I look. I don't think I do. Let me know where you see that table. Is it in my spreadsheets, or are you talking about the slide deck that's part of IREN? Their growth here, let me see. I think there was a table there for their growth going forward here. Maybe this is what you're talking about here. Data center capacity, right? H2 2024, 510 megawatts. H1 2025, 810 megawatts. And that's Chilvers is a big factor that they're not even pointing out here the Sweetwater site in this one. So they're being a little hush on that one. Right, Sweetwater 1 and 2 are going to be huge, 2 gigawatts total there. So definitely a lot of growth still happening there. If they don't get anything for HPCI, maybe next year they'll start going for Bitcoin mining. We'll see. Gary says, difference last cycle was IREN set up a contingency plan that could return miners if price dropped and profited when it did. Yeah, they did. Bitfarms' mistake had no backup and pushed them to verge of bankruptcy. That is true, right? But they both made mistakes. They both bought miners at higher prices. At that point, then they couldn't service the debt, or at least IREN couldn't service the debt there, so they would give them back, right? So that was a good way. They did a great thing there. I'll give them credit for that. But that's going to be a one and done. You're not going to be able to do that ever again. Nobody's going to lend out money to buy miners under a special purpose vehicle or something like that. And they're still in court on that right now as it is. So we'll see if that gets squashed or if they actually have to pay something for it. We'll see on that one. Let's see. I think we should also talk a bit more on BitDeer. I believe, is a sleeping giant. Lots of potential, in my opinion. Potentially, they have a lot of growth here happening this year. I talked about that last year as well, that they have a lot more growth happening in the second half of this year and into next year as well. And they also have some HPCI potential there with their Ohio site that they're pausing Bitcoin expansion on because they have some interest from HPCI clients potentially there. We don't know. The only thing that with them is I'm a little weary of them being in Singapore, having some ties with China and things like that. I'm a little weary of that. But that's just me. Maybe I'm too overly cautious. I don't know on that one. Okay, that is it. Come up to all your guys' questions here. We're going on about 45 minutes, 46 minutes. I think we'll call it a day. Tomorrow is the next a new month. We'll see where the miners do in July, along with Bitcoin. Where will they end? Will Bitcoin go in green? Oh, that's one thing I was going to show you guys here. Let me go back here. Let me see here. One thing I wanted to show you guys, obviously for the month. Where is it at? Where is it at? It is right here. All right. So, I didn't want to do that one. There it is. July, right? We talked about this in previous shows here recently as well. We can see here July has historically been a pretty good month here, especially in the bull runs in like 2021. Right? We were up 18% here. In 2017, we were up 17%. And in 2023, we were up, or 2013, we were up almost 10% here. So 17, 18, 18% here. If we can get another 18% on Bitcoin, where would that take us to? Well, that would take us to approximately what, 125,000, somewhere around there, right? Based on where Bitcoin price is at right now. That would be nice. And then August again, 2021, again, 13.8%. 2017 was a much better month. We were up 65%. And then 2013, we were up 30%. If we can do at least similar to what we have done historically in July, what we do in August as well, man, that's going to be great. We'll be in, what is that going to put us at? Close to 140,000, 150,000, somewhere around there by the end of July, or by the end of August, sorry, if that's the case. So buckle up. It should be fun. We'll see where we go, or if this gets broken here, hopefully it doesn't get broken. I'd love to see those nice gains here again. And then we would obviously see great gains from the miners as well. Let me see what else we got here as far as questions really quick, because I see some things popping up here. Let's see, I can talk about that one. Let's see, Megan says BlackRock bought 112 million IBIT. Yep. Neville says the big beautiful bill will pass. July will kick off with a bang. There's some people that are for it, some people that are against it. Private has a question: likelihood of Cleanspark getting over 30 by the end of 2025. Do you see it taking off soon into the 20s and even reaching the 30s? I think it's possible for them. Right, Bitcoin getting up to 200,000, I think would definitely help there. So if Bitcoin gets closer to that, the closer to that, they'll get also to 30 exahash and beyond that possibly. All right, that's it. We'll call it a day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much for coming in as always. Love you all. I hope you guys have a great Tuesday, and I hope you guys have a fantastic July. It's gonna be a short week this week because we have 4th of July on Friday. So I'm gonna be out celebrating, spending time with the family. Hopefully you guys do the same thing. So enjoy the week. It's gonna be a nice one. I'll see you guys tomorrow.